Hey everybody, my name is Angie Morenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's the Ustawi segment where we talk all things leadership, justice, governance. And I have a guest in studio who is not new to you. She's been here several times in different capacities and wearing many hats. Teresa, welcome.
Thank you so very much, Apostle Angie. It's always such a great pleasure to be here with you.
And I love having you on the show. Really, really are. Just for the guests who don't know you, who I don't know who those are, please introduce yourself to our guests.
Okay, beautiful. My name is Teresa Njoroge. I'm the founder and CEO of a social enterprise called Clean Start Solutions. We work to empower women, girls, and children who are impacted by the criminal justice system. I'm a mother of two as well. Beautiful, wild change makers who are upcoming. So beautiful to represent, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And you know, you always look so beautiful and so resplendent. And you've made me understand words like conflict to the law, women who are in conflict to the law. You've really got me to understand a lot of the language that is associated with incarceration in this country, or incarceration. But today I wanted to sort of do two things. One is congratulate you. So on your recent award for business. You're going to explain to us 25
top 25 women, top 25 most powerful women in business.
Most powerful women, and you really are a powerhouse. So I want us to talk about that a bit, but in relation with your journey, because you have shared, you know. And I remember once being on an Unstuck panel, and when you shared that you had been in prison, the guests almost choked. They were like, what? Like, please, can you give us a brief first? And we're already rolling. Cameras were already rolling. And so first, congratulations. And then how does that make you feel? Because I feel that's restoration, because I know your story. And if you want to watch more about Teresa's story, you can go back a couple of years. We shot and filmed the whole story. But today, why I wanted to talk about it is because of restoration. Because when you were imprisoned, you were a bank manager. So look at God, Teresa. To now come and put you on the front page of the newspaper and choose you to be in the top 25 women in the C-suite. That's restoration.
It really is.
How does it make you feel, Teresa?
Overwhelmingly grateful. It really does. Because I know that when I was in the corporate world, this is what I really admired and strived to achieve. You know, when I look at the other 24 women who I have the honor and due pleasure of being amongst, these are women that I admired and looked up to as I was growing my career ladder. When you look at the likes of Devji, the MD of Diamond Trust Bank, you know, she is one of my great role models, you know, the very pioneer women to head banks as CEOs or as MDs. Rebecca Miano, you know, just powerhouses. Patricia Itau, CEO, Scanad. So when I look at these women, I'm truly humbled by the journey I have come through to now be amongst them as top 25 most powerful women making impact in business in East Africa. I'm overwhelmingly grateful, truly humbled.
Yeah, and for me, I see restoration. I see something that I heard somebody say, that the enemy can try to delay your blessing, but he cannot stop it, which was very powerful. This explains that, because you are headed for great things. You actually headed for this C-suite level, business level, but God uses a different way. Because it also reminds me of Genesis 50:20. The Bible says what they meant for harm, God turned into good. So this harm has turned into good and brought you here to be recognized among 25 women who are top in their game, top in their businesses, and at C-suite level, and to be honored and to be recognized. that somebody has seen as well. That's so powerful for me. So that speaks of restoration. You know, every time I go back with you to the prison to do something, I always tell you, it's a hard statement, but it had to happen. It had to happen, because in those 9 months that you were there, you never, ever, 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 even if we had come, you know, those are the places you laugh. If somebody had come and said, Teresa, this is going to be you in the newspaper, you'd have laughed out loud and you'd have told them, please go away and don't tell me lies. But the producer today, Miss Beryl, she's trying to take my job. I have to say, she's trying to come and sit here. But anyway, she asked you two very pertinent questions. Because first of all, I wanted to know, like, how did you keep your faith in this season? That's what she asked you. And then she'll remind me the second question.
Sure, indeed. And these are amazing questions, because how do you keep the faith when there's so much coming against you? And, you know, imprisonment is one of the most hardest experiences
I think any human being can ever go through. By the way, avoid things that can take you to prison. And some of them are very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple. You know, I had hanging lines. Fighting over hanging lines, where you're going to hang your clothes, because you can push somebody. Like, remember, there was one person like that who pushed somebody, then they fell, and they're fighting about hanging lines, and the person died.
Yeah, not managing your anger.
Yes, anger management issues. The soft life, I don't know what to call it, soft life, though it's the sponsor life, I don't know what to call it. Because when I went to prison and I found these 25-year-olds, I had said I wasn't going to cry, but I cried when I saw a 25-year-old who has been in prison for life.
From death row.
That broke me. Nothing else was going to break me, but that broke me, because that's the rest of your life. Very young, and now that's it. Just because of, you know, this life, fast life of you want nice handbags, nice cars, you want to party where, please, stay in your lane, let that come naturally. Because it's just being involved. And then those men, the same men and the circles, they just drop you in 2 seconds. Anyway, so how do you keep your faith?
Yeah. So Apostle Angie, first I really want to thank you and honor you, creating time and again, to come and mentor the imprisoned women, like the young girls, the 25-year-olds. That's what this is about, you know, because keeping that faith that it will get better. I think hope is what has been my fuel, that it can be better. You know, just going into prison and believing that even though I didn't get justice by the use of the rule of law within the courts of justice, that I will find a magistrate or a judge who will get through the facts and it will get better. So that hope, I know people say hope is not a strategy, but you need hope, you need faith, because it's the only way that you can apply things that are out of the ordinary. You know, my believing that you can get justice without bribing, my believing that the courts of justice can offer justice to anyone irrespective of their social economic status. My going to prison and seeing the situation, the indignity, the cries and the hopelessness, but believing that it can be better. My coming out of prison and not finding work, being branded with all the stigma as an ex-con, but believing that it can get better, we can turn this around. And setting up Clean Start against all odds. No other formerly imprisoned woman had ever taken on the criminal justice system and saying, we've got to reform this, but believing and hoping and having the faith that it can get better. And it's one step at a time, I must admit, because it's, my goodness, hard work. Without financing and funding, with all the stigma, this has never been done before, but you're really saying against all odds, we're going to give it a trial. And you know, Apostle Angie, one of the reasons why this is one of the most difficult systems to change is because all the other systems, many people experience them. If you look at the health system, if you look at the education system,
financial system,
you know, these are systems that you and I or any other person engage with. But when do we engage with the criminal justice system? Never. The prisons are for criminals, and so it's far removed from day to day. And so it was a very difficult ambition to come back to the corporate world, to the social world, to the families, to the communities, and to the criminal justice actors, and say to them, we've got to change how we administer justice, and more so to the poor and the vulnerable who don't matter much, but that one step at a time have gotten us here.
Imagine. And I always say there's so many people who've gone to prison and they didn't come out and say a single thing, because I also feel it's a reaction. Sometimes when I'm saying that, I'm reminded of David. David said that he fought the lion and the bear that came after the sheep. But I always say there's another choice. David could have run away. He didn't have to fight the lion and the bear. He could have said, go home, give the report, excuse me, lion and bear ate X number of sheep. He didn't have to fight. But something on the inside, which we refer to as the anointing and the grace, got him to fight. Because there are many people who have been imprisoned, and I do understand, sometimes you don't even want people to know you went to prison. The stigma is crazy. And then also just sometimes, when you've been through such a crazy process, you just want to go and let me put it behind me. Let me forget about it. Let me never even think about it. Let me move on like nothing ever happened. But I'm so grateful that you became a voice to the voiceless, because there's a quote I love by Haile Selassie. I pray they put it up because I can't remember all of it. But it always talks about inaction, indifference that causes evil to triumph. So that's why. So when we go through things, why the other systems are working is because when we face injustice in the education system or the financial system, or whatever system, then there's an uproar about it. But when there's something that happens in the criminal justice system, really people want to just hide, lower their heads in shame and move away and never speak about it again. So I'm really grateful that you became a voice to the voiceless, because that's it, because you're lending them a voice. They have no voice. They are the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of society, and they have no voice, but they are people. Yeah. And I've always found it hard that they pay their price, then they have to pay it again. When they're released now, they have to pay it again. Yeah. And then, I love, there's a certain manifesto, I don't say which one, but there's a manifesto which referred to, I was like, wow, Teresa, we're here. I like to say we're here. Because they said, you see, when somebody is earning between 100 and 300 shillings a day, who are the majority of people in Kenya, and then they meet the law. They are in conflict with the law, which we don't even have so much to say about it. When they're in conflict with the law, now that 300 shillings or 100 shillings or 200 shillings becomes a minus. A minus. I almost cried when I read there. I was like, God.
To raise themselves up again.
How? Because now you're putting me at minus. I'm already existing on daily 100, 200, 300. Now you take me negative, because either they have to pay fines, or even if somebody has to pay the fines for them, that's a loan. So you've put them further in the poverty trap than you could ever. So when I saw that sentence, I was like, okay, here we come. We're coming. Because at least we have some solutions, some strategies, because they're human beings. So you've done wrong, and everybody has done wrong. So you've done wrong. So now you're in prison. It's a complete hellhole. Then when you're released, there's no life. Anyway, what do you think you've learned? I don't know whether you want to speak into that first, and then tell me about what you think your greatest learnings are from all that has happened to you, because that's a lot in one beautiful life.
Oh my goodness, Apostle Angie, I say that I could write tons and tons of books as far as lessons are concerned, because it's been one after the other. But as you were explaining about the 100 shillings, 300 shillings a day for these women, you took me to a moment while I was in prison. And when I was in prison, I'd keep quiet a lot. To an extent, some of the women, when I shared with them the dream and the vision, they were like, but you've never said a word.
But you were in shock as well.
The trauma was too much.
Right there.
And the conditions.
Yeah. When that door closes, I'm always like, hey, I have to stop first and say, what? Because the way it bangs shut, you're like, they better remember I don't belong here, I'm leaving. But it must be very traumatizing.
Very traumatizing.
And humiliating. Sorry to interrupt you, but Teresa, when you said that a woman has to strip in front of everyone, me, my spirit almost died. But anyway.
It dehumanizes you and takes away your core being, it just takes it away.
So that's where you were quiet.
Yeah, because I had never ever been to that low. But what you reminded me was this lady who was narrating to a former inmate as well, and she was preparing for her days post-release, and she was saying to this lady, on that day when I leave, I'm going to go to Kenyatta National Hospital. And the reason why she was saying she'll go there is because at the casualty at the night, they've got many beds, and she could use one of those
To sleep.
to spend her night there as she figures out her next steps.
It's because there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. And she's imagining the doors are about to open, I'm about to get my freedom, but where am I going? I hardly have bus fare to even get myself to town. And she's imagining how she could go to a casualty section of the general largest hospital and spend her night there because no one will ask her, and at least she can sleep there with other sick bodies till morning comes as she figures herself out. And those were the kind of stories that really broke my heart. And coming from the corporate world, I knew there's ways and possibilities that we could change this around. You don't need to leave here and go and spend your first evening to celebrate your freedom in a hospital. And so it's that why, as you speak about the anointing that David had and why he couldn't run away, you know, that grace, that why is so deeply instilled within you that when you leave, you can't turn your back because you know better to do something about it. And that grace continues carrying you forward. And one of the biggest lessons, as you've asked what my lessons have been, is to always have my why in the front of me, no matter what the obstacles are, no matter how many other lucrative opportunities come, because it's very easy to be swayed and you're running all over. But if your why keeps guiding you, and also to answer to the faith and hope, I know why I'm doing this. We've got to change the lives of close to 2 million women across Africa who live on 100, 300 Kenya shillings a day or $3 a day across Africa, who are impacted by the criminal justice system adversely, whether it's in Uganda, whether it's in South Africa, Malawi, Botswana, Nigeria, Ghana. It doesn't matter where you look at it, and that's because of the entrenchment of the colonial history that we inherited and that we've come from. So always being guided and led by your why. And then the second very biggest lesson that I have is when I was in the corporate sector in the banking world, I definitely wanted to be amongst the women that I was recognized with as CEOs. But now that I'm with them, it's the journeys that have led me there totally very different. In addition to the why, it's the purpose. What's my purpose of wanting to be the CEO of one of the largest organizations in this country? When I was in the corporate sector, it was very personal. It was about me and the esteem and the, pride that it would give me. But right now, being on that list gives me pride in the sense that the women have a voice, the women have been visibilized. The cause around decriminalizing poverty is being given attention. The social impact will get the due attention it deserves, whether it's from government, corporate, individuals, faith-based organizations. We need to have mercy and think about those who are, social economically lower than where we're at, So why is it you want whatever it is that you want? And that leadership is very sacrificial.
It's very sacrificial. And you may never always get the the appreciation for it. But I believe that what is within us motivates us to keep going and to keep doing what it is that we need to do.
Yeah, you've got to offer of yourself. Jesus Christ demonstrated it. The King of Kings had to come down, die on the cross for our sake, and throughout he sacrificed all he had because of the love. And that's the other thing, in addition to sacrifice, is the love. If you don't have love, don't do it.
And you know, yesterday I heard Dr. Wale, it was actually Dr. Wale who said that transformation comes by love. That in order to transform societies, and I actually immediately thought of you, because every time I think of societal transformation, social impact, you're one of the people that comes to mind. And he said there has to be love, that we have to be so motivated by love. That is what is going to cause us to transform. That's why we kind of walk away from those women. We can't, and you know, that's, you're doing women and girls. I'm really praying for somebody to be raised to do the men, because I've not been able to go to the men's prison. That's what I think will break me, because I just know that that one now is the next level of toughness, you know. So I just praying for somebody to be raised to do the same for them, because your focus, and I like that as well, because I remember a few years ago going into strategies about who is our core, or who is your core audience, and that's when you came up with women and the girls and their children, because it was also about women who are in the system. And then also recently there was a law passed, at least now the children have been put in the budget. So that's another win for you and for Clean Start.
Yeah,
and
the
for
child
the
care policy.
Yes.
Exactly, a big win for Kenya, and even for the girls who are taken within the juvenile justice system should be dealt with at community level. Because what is a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old doing in a juvenile facility? Adults have failed somewhere. Yeah, and Apostle Angie, just to add a little bit to the love, because you cannot love someone and not be proximate to them. And so
love requires
proximity. And that's the only way real change comes. You know, we've just come from the electioneering period, and it was interesting to see our leaders, our electorate, come to the ground, to where the people are, and speak to their issues as they're requesting them to vote for them, which is a good thing, but it shouldn't end there. They should continue being proximate to the issues on the ground, because that's why they're in those offices, to bring the much needed change. So proximity.
Wow. And I think Clean Start has afforded you, I mean, there's so much to say. I know we're running out of time. First of all, I'm thinking about the coalition of formerly imprisoned women, because that's great, because they don't have somewhere to go. There's definitely the healing circles where they heal and then they get ideas on how to do business and execute business. And then there's the funding that you have to do. So you've been on very many platforms talking with a lot of global partners. I pray that they're local partners as well. I think recently saw you signing something with KCB. So all the funding and everything that has to take place, the management has needs to take place, the proper utilization of resources. There's a lot that's going on, Teresa. So maybe you could just weigh into that as we bring it to a close.
It's just incredible to see the results of all the work, Apostle Angie, from coming out of prison to meeting at Uhuru Park, sharing one soda.
Deborah,
Oh my goodness.
Under the palm tree, the desert,
Yes,
nowhere to meet.
exactly, or not could afford going somewhere decent. And to now see that, yeah, as you said recently, you know, we've just signed an MOU with KCB Foundation. Chandaria Foundation has just invested massively through an amazing first-class kind of a workshop, to see the local partners stand up, and I believe that others are coming up. It's incredible to see the progress that has come in.
Because she can't make the sales pitch as she does her closing, I'm really asking a lot of corporates, because you have CSR as well, you know, these places need sanitation, they need proper housing, there's a whole Boston that needs like school stuff, there's water and sanitation is a big thing for me, you know, just making sure they have basic water, they have basic sanitation, they have a place to rest their heads, all those things. I mean, I think it's just important. So find a way to plug in. You know, we're not trying to encourage them, we're just trying to make the rehabilitation process and reformation and change happen. Instead of hardening them, by torturing them and dehumanizing them to levels that you would not want. I mean, that's just really bad. So I think a lot of corporates, even private people, individuals, there's always needs in the prison. Unfortunately, we can't even afford to keep our prisoners, which is one of the reasons we should let them go. But anyway, so they don't have basic sanitary stuff. They don't have sanitary towels, they have toilet paper, soap, toothpaste, just basics. So when you can go help, and every time I go, I find I always find the Asian community there, feeding people, giving. You know, we have to become givers as well, and we have to think of the less fortunate, those who are really less fortunate than we are. And I think I'll also make an appeal to settle things out of court as well, if you can. If somebody has wronged you, do your best to, I don't say just let them go, but just try to settle it out of court, because taking any human being through the prison system in this country is quite serious. And you know, Langata is Kepinski, that's what they call it. So this is the cream of the crop. So if you go to other places, it's bad. We cannot tell you how it is bad. I remember one woman, as I'm saying three times and bring it to a close, but I remember one woman who was pregnant, and I'll never forget her eyes, because she was petrified. And she was petrified because, you know, as a mother, the first thing you do, the instinct is to protect your child. And she had no means of protecting this child. She didn't know what was going to happen, how she was going to give birth, when she was going to give birth. And your first thing is to protect your child, but she can't even do that in this giving birth. So I could see the look in her eyes was, I think the word is trepidation. She was so stressed.
It is, and you can imagine 74% of these women are in there due to petty survival crimes. So you can imagine she's been unable to provide for herself and her child, which most likely is why she's ended up here in this kind of a situation where it even puts her at a more vulnerable space. And what are the odds once she gets out of there?
But even I think her problem was, how is she going to give birth? Where is she going to give birth? Which, you know, anyway, childbirth is already precarious as it is, so the woman had a lot of stress. I really felt it for her.
They really go through a lot when it comes to childbirth and taking care of that child behind bars in those circumstances. It's really difficult. And then you can imagine all that trauma is being transferred
to that child, even that she's carrying. It must be really crazy. Maybe we can finish on a high note about all your global platforms and what's happening in those scenes and the people that maybe you even met recently.
Yeah, incredible. So we're actually at the verge of rebranding to Clean Start Africa. Yes. This is both pre-planned and also organic, in the sense that some of the women who we serve here have served here have now gone back to their home countries, Uganda, Zambia, and so on and so forth. So organically, we need to go into those countries and continue offering them our services. And then in the course of doing our work, it's also become clear that the same issues we're dealing with in Kenya are the same issues across Africa. So, you know, really want to thank all our allies, the Ford Foundation, the ICJ, the Africa Early Childhood Network, and many other global partners who have joined hands with Clean Start and said, we want to work together and change this system. Because Apostle Angie, for us, it's not just a dip. The fact that this system has affected us all around, we want to overhaul the system. And you know how best to change a system is to create a parallel working system. That takes a lot, and we're grateful. Step at a time, we believe we will build that system.
And I feel like the criminal justice players are really partnering with you to make this a reality. Yes. They really are, and so I really
the NCAJ, indeed.
The NCAJ is the National Commission?
The National Council on Administration of Justice. Yeah, an incredible partner.
So all the partners are really working well together, I think. All the players in the judicial process, and that's really good. The court users, committees, the CUCs, and all that. Everybody's really working to make sure that we make changes. You know, I remember when you launched the Rethinking the Bars, which you've done a few videos on, people can watch it. But I remember they said that they're writing their season of rethinking sentencing. So the recommendations from your Rethinking the Bars they'll consider looking at it. So at least there's a document that's there.
Yeah.
So we're really proud of you.
We're on to a good space.
Yes.
It's looking bright.
Amen. Yeah. The path of the just will shine brighter and brighter. So may you continue shining. We're so grateful to have you on board. You're an amazing woman. You absolutely amaze me. The strength you have, I don't think I would have that strength, but to each their own, because I think everybody has the strengths that play out. And it reminds me of what they say when you don't know the strength of a person or even a woman until you dip her in hot water. It's like a tea bag, because when you put the tea bag in hot water, then the flavors come out. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm celebrating you because you have done a great thing and you're drawing others out with you, because that's what leadership is about. Is that it stops being just about you. It starts being about others as well. And I remember the first time you invited me to Clean Start, I was just coming to just pray for you guys. I ended up, I think, prophesying, and that was that. Then I came a second time, and then this journey began. So I'm really grateful for the journey. I think for me, the greatest learning working with you, in partnership with you, has been to see that this is more of a spiritual battle than it is a physical battle. If we win spiritually, then it manifests physically. Because I remember, people may be tired of us repeating it, but I'll keep repeating it. We prayed for, I think, 1 whole year as a commission for the criminal justice system and incarceration and prisons, and we saw miracle signs and wonders. So we have continued, you know. So we've seen prayer move mountains, cause situations that were unshakable to shake and to open up and to allow people to go through. Because I also sense, because of Romans, I feel like we're in a Romans 8:19 to 21 kind of place where God is raising us. So if I could say, God is raising you as a mature son to manifest his glory and deliver your scope of influence, which is the women and the girls and the children in conflict with the law, from bondage to decay into God's freedom and glory. Last story which encouraged me was this woman who said, and you should have seen the joy on her face. I mean, you know, it takes me everything I really cry when I come to your meetings. I'm like, guy. This woman said she had been in prison a few times, but then she got a skill. I don't even know who made the skill happen. She was so proud. She says, I'm a carpenter, I'm a joiner, I have a certificate. I was like, wow. So imagine just and now you see, modeling, mentoring, coaching, training these people changes lives. Yeah. Totally. Her life, she said, has completely changed.
Yeah, and that's what it is, Apostle Angie, offering these women opportunities to learn skills, to then be able to start decent means of livelihood through decent economic empowerment for themselves, for their income generation. That's all they're looking for, a decent opportunity and access to that, because they don't have that. But Apostle Angie, even as I dwell on to that, because that's our joy, just seeing that investment in the women and they're coming alive, and just knowing that it's the investment from different angles. If you look at the work that you do with these women on mentorship and coaching them from a spiritual perspective and praying for them, and then the Ufunuo program and the many other people, for instance, Renaissance, who comes in and coaches them on entrepreneurship. You know, there's just so much that needs to be poured into these women for them to become confident and stand on their own. But I really want to say this because someone might look and think, what's the magic? What's the secret? I mean, how have you been able in just a short time to start this organization and now make such impact? You know, the secret is your accountability people who you're accountable to, people who pour into you, because you must be accountable. And I want specifically to say thank you, Apostle Angie. as your spiritual daughter, because when I was looking for you and I was hungering, I knew that there was an area that I had gotten to, and I must find someone to hold my hand to get us to the next level. And it was so clear that we couldn't do it by ourselves. And that hunger and such led us to you. And when we found you, it's never been the same again. The acceleration. But you see, it's the work that happens behind the scenes, the prayers, the fasting, the advice, the counsel, that spiritual guide. Because God is the one who puts the purpose in you. He's the one who's got the master plan. There is no way you'll come and shine it into the world without Him. And so you covering us and being our spiritual authority, our spiritual leader and advisor, has made all the difference, because we know the steps to take, the steps not to take, because life is about the choices you make. So how do you know which decision to take, which way to go? Well, there's so many of them. It's that accuracy of the Holy Spirit guiding you. And just to add that, the prison environment, people are in bondage.
Serious.
You are not going. It's so spiritual. You're not going to get them off the bondage just by walking in there and running a program. You've got to come in with a spiritual lens to it. So I just want to say thank you, Apostle Angie, for loving us, being very proximate with us. You know, you're in those prisons every other day, you know, guiding us and pouring into these women. I tell you, that's why, you know, all these goodies are coming our way. So we appreciate it. We know it's by the power of grace.
Amen. And I really appreciate it, and I'm really humbled by that, and I'm grateful, because also for me, when I see these women, that's what motivates me. When I see them, when we get on a coaching call and they are bright and shining and glowing, and I'm like, oh my God, and they are thriving, then I say, oh God, now get them out of this prison. But some of them also, there's so much that's happened there. They've gotten good education. They're doing things they would never have done if they were out on the other side. They're getting skills, they're getting training. That's what I love. So they're being empowered. And somebody would think that spiritual empowerment is just prayer. No, we have an eye, we have wisdom. We also, even my age has wisdom, my experiences have wisdom. So I look at them, we laugh about some things. I say, okay, that's not the right choice. Why did you do this? You know, some of the mother instinct comes out as well. Like, why are you behaving like that? Don't behave like that. Why are you doing this? You know, so it's just a mixture of so many things, but it's so much fun and it's so impactful. And then we do pray. Yeah, PLF, and even the Real You book. Yes. You know, when I send the Real You book to prisons, the impact I have felt. Now they even motivated me to do the Swahili version and to do the Swahili audio, which I'm working on. So that's powerful. Yeah. That one of the women right now, even in prison, told me, when I read your book, I decided, she made a decision to change her life. That now, I couldn't even wail in front of her. I had to maintain my cool, but I was like, that's impact now. Because now I've impacted her generations. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. They're different now. When Ufuno program, so whatever it is they need, whether it's Renee's program, just somebody cares. And I think the other thing that happens with them is somebody cares. They're actually quite shocked that somebody cares enough to spend these 30 minutes talking to me, 1.5 hours, about my issues.
Yeah. It makes all the difference. You're very lonely in prison and very left out or ostracized from society. So when someone comes, it's a dedication of love, and then that investment, it changes them, gives them hope for when they leave, and prepares them for victory.
Yeah. And in case you're looking for a plot, like December, they're usually women who are not visited in prison, I guess, and men as well, because their families have given up on them, especially those on death row. They're like, okay, that one died. They're alive, but they're dead. So sometimes they'll allow people to be brought for food and all that, but they will not allow for the ones who have, if you have no relative who's bringing you food, it's like visiting day, you have to stay on the other side of the prison. So there's even a lady called Mercy who usually cooks for them, but you need to do things like that, you know. when you're looking for how can I be thankful to God for the year that He has given me and the life He's given me, do some of those Thanksgivings. Go and visit, and it's in the Word. Go and visit those who are not visited, who have nobody, you know, because I think there's a place where Christ says, when I was in prison, you didn't come. Yeah. So be those people who go to prison, shop extra, take it to the prison and take it to the prisoners. So God bless you greatly, Teresa. Very, very proud of this great restoration that God has done. It shows that God can do anything, and what He has promised you, He will deliver. Maybe not in the path that you expected, but He still delivers it. So I'm really grateful, very faithful. We're very proud of you. Keep shining, keep doing your thing. I keep feeling like you're a Joseph in the marketplace. Amen? Amen. Thank you for watching Ustawi. It was a bit longer than usual, but I feel you needed the content. God bless you and see you soon. Bye-bye.